Issues. This is Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan in New York City, Rockefeller Center, Newsstand Studios. Joined as usual with Joe Hazen rocking the panels. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing well, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, back to back. This is the first time ever doubleheader Cooking Issues episode. We're excited. Going to bring two very different episodes, but hopefully Patreon people are still with us. And if you're listening live on Patreon, you can call in your questions to 917-410-1507. That's 917-410-1507. And Quinn, we have Quinn in the upper left corner. How you doing, Quinn? Why don't you tell them how to join Patreon if they don't know how?
I'm good. Yeah, you go to patreon.com/cooking issues. As Dave mentioned, that gives people the option to listen either live or get the recorded podcast early alongside benefits like discounts on cookbooks or occasionally other products related to our guests and priority questions.
Yeah. We've given some food discounts, right? Meats from Edwards Age Meats and whatnot. Didn't we do it? Mm-hmm. We did something for Aura King, I think, when they were a sponsor. So yeah.
Also, Nick Coleman.
Oh yeah, Mr. Greasy, the olive oil man himself. Yeah, who's now touring the world, playing a bass. Do you know he has a new olive? He got olive wood and had it put into a bass. That was the latest thing I saw from him. Brand new funky bass. Anyway, 4 strings, thank God. 4 is all you need, Quinn. Did you know that? 4 strings is all you need.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't say it with 4, why say it? You know what I mean? Anyway, over in L.A., we have Nastasia the Hammer Lopez. How you doing?
I'm still good.
Are they? Well, remember, some people are just hearing this. You got to always put your mind in other people's shoes, Nastasia. Not everybody listens to them both in a row.
You just said we're doing a double header.
I know, but you still have to. If I'm only listening to the second half, this is like customer service 101. You know what I mean? You're good? Are you still?
That's my job.
Yeah. Are they still working on the pipes? Do you still have to do this remotely from a coffee shop?
Yes, I'm in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the joys of living near other people.
Mute so that Joe doesn't get upset.
Oh, so now Joe's the big bad wolf? Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
All right.
No, I just don't want the background sound.
Yeah. And Jackie Molecules, how you doing?
Good, not at a coffee shop.
All right. And our second special guest of the day in studio, it would have been kind of cool to have everyone. If the studio was like twice as big, we could have had everyone in at the same time. But we can't. Kevin Jeung is here, who is you're telling me the title is research chef at Noma and Noma Projects?
At Noma Projects, and primarily the fermentation lab.
Okay. But, I mean, like, when I visited you there, like, it's not like you're in the same thing. You're doing this stuff. It's not like you're, like, in a separate... It's not like when Nastasia and I... So you're FCI grad, French Culinary Institute grad.
Yep.
And we're there in the days when Nastasia and I were in a trash closet across the way from the Italian kitchen. And you're not in a trash closet. You're like part of the whole Megillah. Like, you're producing the products that are actually on the menu as well as are being sold, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, it's the first iteration of the fermentation lab at the old Noma was these old shipping containers outside, and that's where Dave Zilber, who you've guest of the show, where he started the program with Lars Williams of Empirical and Ariel Johnson, another friend of the show. And the irony is they've let us into the building in Noma 2.0, and then the test kitchen, which was in the building in Noma 1.0, is now in a greenhouse outside. And though Danish summer is quite short, it is sunny and it is a working greenhouse. So a lot of times they're spraying each other with ice water to keep staying out there.
Oh, yeah, it's hot. I bet. Hot as hell. Yeah. Oh, it's a nice greenhouse.
It is a nice greenhouse.
So if anyone should be lucky enough to go to the restaurant. So we went right after you did your Kyoto thing last year, right?
Yep, and you came in the vegetable season, the vegetarian season, which I was surprised by because, I seem to know you as someone who enjoys his meats.
I do enjoy my meats, but I enjoy any. But like I have to say, well, I said it before because I talked about it when I got back from it. I went being like, how good could it be? It was really good. It's really, really good. But like the crazy thing about it is it's like you have like 80 people on staff for 80 covers. Like it's loony, but amazing. Like everybody, like I felt a little bit like a robber baron. Like no one should be able to live this well, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole experience. The whole time you are in the building, you get cared for by, more people than are in the dining room at any given point in time. It's funny, during COVID, they institute the whole, capacity restriction, and they're like, base it on square footage. And, you've been to Noma, you know how big it is. And, we only serve 80 something guests every night. And they're like, well, you have to cap your covers at like 150, 180 people. And we're like, no problem.
It's so funny. But when you go, you start out in a greenhouse and they pour you like some starting libations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get a welcome cocktail, whether it's sometimes it's champagne, sometimes it's a cocktail we make in house, sometimes it's some tea if you're having the non-alcoholic pairing for the evening, and it's just a nice way to start off, especially in the summertime.
But why is the test kitchen there?
I don't know exactly why they chose to go outside. It might have been part of the design, but the idea is that the test kitchen is its own thing. So they have their own dishwasher, their own fridges, their own sections, their own cutting boards and pans and pots and circulators and things like that. So there's none of this like running inside being like, who's using the circulator right now? We need it in the test kitchen. And likewise, they don't run in there from service being like, I need a frying pan right now. Everyone has their own thing. So there's no back and forth, and it's less disruptive.
Now, I have to say, I don't really, and then if you're not allowed to say or whatever, I don't know what's going on because, they say, okay, we're shutting down, but they're not shutting down, but they are, but they're not. What the heck is actually going on with Noma? What's the deal?
The hot topic of Noma right now is everyone wants to know, like, what's Noma 3.0 going to be? And I mean, the most I can tell you right now is for 20 years, Noma's been this restaurant that's been open however many days of the week, and the ability of us to enrich and change the lives of people is limited to those 80 or something people who come into the dining room every day, right? If you've never eaten at Noma, you don't really know that experience. You don't know what it's like to come in and have the vegetable season menu that you did, or to go to Kyoto or Mexico for one of the pop-ups. So one of the great endeavors we have is by not being a restaurant in the traditional sense of the word anymore, where we have to be ready for service every single day, we can work on larger scope projects such as Noma projects, or working on reducing food waste, or partnering with different collaborators to try to widen the scope and become something more than just a restaurant, but something that can enhance and engage people beyond just the hungry people who come to a restaurant every day.
Right, but I mean, like, you're still hiring, like Francisco Migoya just showed up, right? So you're not hiring him on for pastry if you're not going to continue to make things like pastries.
But
right?
you have to, like...
Or breads or whatever.
Yeah, so Francisco, he was the pastry chef at the French Laundry back in the day, but most recently he was working for Nathan Mervold at the Modernist Cuisine Lab, and, like, that's not a restaurant either, right? But they're working on things to spread knowledge and to learn as much as they can about any given topic. I think the pizza book was the most recent one to come out. So,
and he was on that one.
Yeah.
He came here for that, I think.
Yeah.
He was here on the show, and I think it was for the pizza book.
Yeah, I listened. So I have a lot of friends who've been on the show, and I consulted with all of them just if there's any tips, like don't mention these things to Dave, or he'll get angry and they'll mute your mic or something.
No, I mean, no, that's never happened. But Francisco was not pleased because he knew he was going to get backlash on how hard they were on New Haven pizza. And they deserve to get backlash. There's no reason to be so harsh to the New Haven pizza people. I mean, it's not at the level that most modern pizza people are, but it's what it is.
I've never had it before, so
You've never been to New Haven?
No.
Oh.
It's I mean, I was here for the FCI for 7 months. It was a 6-month program, right?
Yeah.
But I'm from Toronto, Canada, and then I've spent a lot of time in Europe. I've never been to New Haven. I've been to Chicago, but I've never had a deep dish pizza either.
No, you're not missing. I mean, no offense, but you're not missing. I'm going to go ahead and say that it's fine, but I mean, I've ranted about this before on the air, but like, you go there and they're like, just so you know, it's going to be like 45 minutes before you get your pizza. I'm like, why? Or don't you make these for a living? What the hell? You know what I mean? Like, anyway, it's fine.
But I went to, so the first night we got into town, because he's also in New York right now, helping with this Noma projects and Noma tour that we're going on right now. The first night we were in town, we went to Stretch, Wiley's place.
Oh, nice.
And I got to say, it was nice to see Wiley. It was my first tasting menu experience way back in 2008 at WD50.
Old school.
Yeah. But it was kind of like being brought to the Vatican by the Pope himself, because like Wiley just started sending out pies and everything, and Francisco's got all he's got all the inside track on so much of this pizza stuff. So it was like a learning experience, but delicious at the same time. So
what's it like going to Wiley's pizza place with Francisco Migoya? Like in the real life, he's like picking up because the thing is that at that point you can't enjoy anything in the real life. You got to be looking at the bottom. You got to be looking at all these little things. It's like I thankfully have gotten kind of think past that point in my life where I can actually enjoy meals again. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't what you think, where he's poking at it with a knife or something like that. But he did have some opinions about certain styles of pizza. He did mention New Haven pizza. I have to be honest in that he did mention that. But I think the best reaction we had simultaneously was we got the Sicilian style slice that Wiley does.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and we go to lift it.
Very airy.
Exactly, like it was so light.
It's like a pillow.
And
crispy pillow.
We lifted it with a knife and fork because we were afraid the toppings were going to fall off. Sorry, I just hit the mic.
It's fine.
And we almost put the pizza right into the ceiling. It was so light. He's not used to it being like that. And Francisco was like dumbfounded. And Wiley gives us a tour at the end. He's just talking about this dough, like how do you do this, and how come it's so light? It was.
He spent
really,
a long
good.
time on that dough, and it's got very crisp bottom, not dry, crisp bottom, super light. I think it's a good slice. It's like I don't know how much he pushes that, but.
This is one of the ones that he sent out. So what we did was we were like, well, maybe we'll just order, and then that way Wiley's like, if we say, Wiley, send out whatever you want, we're going to get, smashed with so much food. So we ordered a pizza each, and then still got smashed with a lot of food.
Yeah, it's kind of sometimes it's a nightmare, right? You just want to like have some small amount of food and leave.
But that sounds terrible to say when whoever is feeding you is giving you. All
it's a great privilege.
Yeah,
it's a great privilege, but sometimes you get very full.
A lot of times you get very, very full, and there have been instances where I've had friends set me up with a meal, and the chef will send a lot of stuff out, and you're just trying to keep a brave face on and be polite, but in the end you're like rolling out of there, like that's the rest of your day. It's just you're going home, you're going to sleep, and.
Yeah, I mean the lucky thing is you shouldn't really do it at a bar because you'll really F people up. You know what I mean? You have to really ask them what they want, or let them know for sure that they're not obligated to finish this crap. Because that's the thing, I feel obligated to finish almost anything I'm handed. Unless it's really over the top. You know what I mean? Like, anyway. Yeah, you know what the thing interesting about Wiley on the Sicilian is that his focus is this modern take on old school New York slices. So I feel like growing up, Sicilian was something that we would always get, but it was never great.
It was never better than like the floppy slice you fold in half.
Right, right. And so in his mind, he's shooting for that what would it be if it was what I wanted it to be? So I think people got to wrap their mind around that before they even taste it to see kind of like how weird it is. You know what I mean? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the toppings are great too. The what's the one based on the grilled cheese at the bar down the street with the pumpernickel and the Munster cheese?
Oh yeah, I've only had that once. I like pumpernickel a lot. I think there should be a pumpernickel version of everything.
See, in Denmark, a lot of the bread has that flavor because it's a lot of dark rye bread. It's got that sourness to it, which is super nice.
All right, listen, there's the bread in Denmark.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, so it was, someone at Noma, because we were going to eat the next day, lunch was our last meal, and they sent us, dinner. They sent us to a place that's normally a lunch place, and we told them we'd already gone to however you pronounce Tolden Schnapps. And they sent us to another place that's like that, and they made this bread that I'm trying to figure out how they made that was baked in a ramekin, real crispy, like with cornmeal on the outside. Do you know the restaurant I'm talking about?
Based off the bread course, I mean, was it a dark bread?
Relatively dark, but kind of soft on the inside, and you would cut it. Bread was great, and they wouldn't tell me anything about it. They wouldn't tell me anything about it.
It was old school Danish? Did you have someone speaking English to you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was old school Danish, but I forget. It was one of the places you guys recommend. And speaking of old school Danish, I've said on the air many times how much I love the Danish pork skin game. And you have brought me the Danish pork skin. Where's the camera for those that can see it? Oh, yeah, look at this. So this looks like a much more vicious, if shorter-fingered version of those weird things that people use if they don't know how to pull pork without them. You know what I mean? Those like garden tongs.
Yeah.
But this, you want to describe this for me? It feels great. It feels great because it's
ergonomic Danish design, right?
It's like a solid block of like what feels like polypropylene. I can't see, but it feels like I could really mess up some pork skin with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the blades are kind of calibrated so that they're short, so they don't puncture the flesh of the. I mean, we get really nice pork in Denmark, so it's supposed to go through the skin into a little bit of the fat, and that's what gives you that crunchy outside. Whether it's a belly or loin, or in my opinion, the best cut is the neck, the pork neck. If you get boned out pork neck with the skin still on. When we do Christmas lunch at the restaurant, it's the last day of before Christmas, before everyone goes on holiday. And all the sous chefs and the managers, we cook for the rest of the team. Normally it's chefs de parties and interns rotating in. And it's always the pork neck because it's like...
And is it actually the neck?
Yep.
And how much of a meat cap is there? Or is it basically skin and then you stuff it with something else?
Oh no, there's lean in there as well. Like bear in mind these are massive pigs as well. They're I don't know how old they get, but they're heavy. Like it's a thick hide as well. Like this tool, you need it to get through the skin on this. So.
And so then so are you like salting it down for like a long time or like?
Yeah, you start the day before and you'll salt the meat, and then usually what happens is you put it in it's a hotel pan here. It's a gastro in Europe, but it's a hotel pan here.
Gastronor.
Yeah. And you put it on a rack. Usually there's a little bit of stock or water in the bottom underneath the rack, and you kind of steam bake it till it's basically where you want it. And then you take it out of the oven, you rest it for a little bit, and in the meantime you're cranking that oven and you just blast it, and the skin kind of bubbles and gets all crisp. And if you've scored it with this, that's how it separates and you can slice right through.
And do you protect the bottom when you're doing the flash off, or you just let it go? It's cool enough. It doesn't dry out or anything.
Also because it's neck, right? There's you have a bigger window of success there. A lot of times if it's loin, it can get dry.
Yeah.
Loin being kind of like the turkey of Christmas, where sometimes it's quite dry, even though you have a crispy skin. With the neck, there's so much fat and gelatin in there that it's super juicy afterwards. So
compare it to like belly. You know how belly has one or two muscles that dry out in it? You know, like when you're looking at the belly, like a lot of it's good and then a couple of them are dry. Neck doesn't have any of that. It's all the goodness. Yeah, and like the cross section of the neck, because we'll tie it so it's kind of like round. But when you slice into it, it looks almost like if you take a cross section of a pork leg, right? So there's like small muscle groups in there with connective tissue between. Like these muscles? Yeah, exactly. Wait, so you tie it round like a mini porchetta? Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, because you want to keep it as tight as possible, and then you bake it off so that it's the skin faces up and gets super crispy under the broiler. Wait, but you cook it flat in the liquid, then you roll it? No. You roll it first. The liquid, the pork itself isn't in the liquid. It's just used as a source of steam. Like a moderator. Okay. Exactly. But so you do it that way? You don't just do it in one of your combis? We do it in the combi as well. This is just a... Double? Yeah, just to make sure. I mean... And is that liquid aromatic? I forget whether you said it. Is it liquid aromatic or not? Yeah, so, a cheeky thing we do is sometimes we'll throw a couple of the garums in there just for... Because you're made of money? Yeah, well, we're not made of money, but we're made of a lot of meat scraps and things like that from service. So we never have a shortage of fun little experiments that we have going around that never made the menu, but taste good regardless. And sometimes they'll find their way into staff meal. Huh. So Quinn, this sounds like it's up your alley. You going to try this sometime? I mean, yeah, I don't have any garums on hand at the moment. It's actually been like a really long time since I made a batch of koji. I'm really getting the itch. Right, but Quinn, that's the last step. I'm saying you're going to get the pork neck. That's the thing you got to get is the pork neck. I've never even seen pork neck in my normal stores around here. Yeah, I've never seen it in North America in the cut like it is, but like you can get it in the Danish equivalent of a Whole Foods. It's a very common cut. Huh. I wonder if there's a Danish butcher. Maybe. It's like I wish I knew where there was a Colombian butcher so I could get that pig head with the cape. You know what I mean? Like, I've heard you describe it on air before, and I've seen photos. I've yet to see it in first person. Well, every butcher has their own. Right, you need a way to use whatever, like however you cut it, you need a way to use it all, right? Mm-hmm. So like every culture has their own way of hacking up the pig, you know? Speaking of going back from pig to beef, have you ever had this Red Devon cattle? I've been reading about it and now I really want it. Red Devon from England? Yeah, but they have it everywhere, and apparently it's one of the better grass-fed, like it's one of the better tasting beef on grass. Like naturally feeding on grass? Or, yeah. Okay. In other words, like if you're going to have grass fed, there's no point apparently in doing it. It marbles well on grass. So, and has good flavor on grass. Right. So it's kind of optimized for grass. But now I want to taste it. But, I found places in the United States where I could buy a whole cow. What am I going to do, Kevin, with a whole cow? Yeah, not much.
No idea.
I don't have a big enough freezer like you could buy half a beef.
A big enough freezer, a big enough family. Because, I mean, if you're a big enough family, you don't have to put it in the freezer. You just roast the whole thing off.
Yeah. Have you ever I've never had a whole roast cow, but I imagine it would be disappointing.
Yeah, I've seen photos of like on I don't know what the name of the massive spit is, where it's splayed out like a kite and it's slow roasted for hours. I can't imagine.
That's a door, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I can't imagine there's no part of that animal that's horrendously overcooked.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's some parts of it that don't mind being overcooked. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'm sure the vast majority of it, this is why you need so much sauces and stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like so much goopy sauce to make up for the fact that you viciously overcooked the meat. So you said you were doing a tour here for Noma Projects. Why don't you describe Noma Projects? It's not like people can join the club because it's sold out, but maybe they could join the wait list.
Well, so Noma Projects, the club you're referring to is called the Taste Buds, and this is kind of like a subscription-based annual service we have where, for example, we have a very large audience of people who are interested in tasting our products and interested in purchasing them, and that kind of puts a cap on what we can produce because, I mean, I'm sure you can imagine if you're picking like the little bit of lemon thyme off a branch to make a ferment, you can't make however many hundreds of thousands of kilos of it to feed the wide supply. But for a smaller subscription base, you can do a lot of those things that maybe are too labor intensive or too expensive to produce in a grander scale. So that kind of group is called the Taste Buds. We sell the memberships annually, and we do have a wait list every year.
If you make it on, are you automatically allowed to sign up? Is it like wine, where once you're on the list, you have a spot next year as long as you accept it? Yeah,
you get a renewal notice at the end of the year. And that's how, this is the second year we're doing Taste Buds right now. So quite a few people from the first batch, when offered the renewal, they signed on because they kind of understand that every year we try to improve. And, Noma is 20 years a restaurant. And we're very good at being a restaurant. But as a retail, like all these products and selling them to the general consumer, we're still a startup, right? Like we have the expertise on flavor, but some of the added value things, like I mentioned, we have a Discord for the Taste Buds and promotional things like this tour in New York City. Those are things that we are challenging ourselves to improve and think about in the future.
Right, but it's a different model. So when most people try to make like sauces or whatnot or liquors or whatever, they're looking to take their recipes, find a co-packer, and then kind of produce it and sell it on a wider market, and you're going in the opposite direction.
Well, we do have a line of products like the corn and yuzu hot sauce. That's something available to anyone who wants to go on the website and purchase a bottle. Like the idea is.
But are you still making it, or is it co-packed?
We make it. We have we have Restaurant Noma, which you saw, and you saw the fermentation lab that I work in, and there's no way we're making that amount of hot sauce in that size of a lab. We have another facility that's larger that has all the big equipment, that like the large steam cookers and a bottling machine and things like that. And that's where all these products are produced and stored.
How big is steam cooker?
If we're talking liters, it's like, I don't even know. Like it could fit several of me, and I'm not a small person.
Yeah, when the Concord Hotel closed down in the Catskills, I went to the auction, and so they would serve thousands of people a day, thousands and thousands, and their steam kettles, I couldn't believe it. I was speechless. It was like floor to huge ceiling, like I'm talking like multi-cow. You could just take whole cows and throw them into these steam cookers. Dump them in like
breakfast cereal.
Oh,
right? Yeah.
That was crazy. I've never seen anything in my life. I've never seen anything like it. Can you believe it? A place that was that big ever shut down? It's like I can't believe it was ever built, much less shut down. You know,
it's crazy. Like when we started the whole idea of producing our ferments on a larger scale, we had to look at equipment, we had to look at spaces, and part of that is visiting companies and factories that do this on the regular in large amounts, just to kind of get an idea of what we were in for if we're going in this direction. And the equipment I saw was like, I didn't even know machines like this existed. Like they're just massive, huge capacity. Things were automated that I thought you wouldn't be able to automate. It's a whole different world.
And so how different is the product? Like how much work? So it's very unusual for one person to, unless this is their job, to do something on a restaurant scale and then be the same person to move it up to production scale on a larger piece of equipment. So it's got to be a huge learning curve. Like what's been most surprising about that kind of move?
I mean, it's a lot of it is when you extrapolate a restaurant recipe. And I give the example of we have a Dropbox file where all the chefs have access to the recipes every season, and they'll get like recipes for spice mixes. But the test kitchen, they work in quantities of like 8 covers or 12 covers. They're very small, and then you have to extrapolate that to 80-something people per service. So all these recipes, they're then multiplied by 2, 4, 6, whatever, and then you take those original test kitchen recipes, and then you're extrapolating it not to 80, but maybe 80,000. And suddenly it's like, I don't think I need 5,000 cloves in this recipe, because the original recipe was like 1 clove, and that was just the unit size, right? So a lot of that is really interesting when we have a production manager at Noma Projects, and she'll come and she'll like look at a recipe and be like, so I put this into the algorithm, like the extrapolate the formula, and I think this is a very odd number to get of like salt or of some foraged ingredient. And, there's like the wild rose vinegar, the amount of rose petals you need, and it's by weight, and like rose petals weigh nothing. And she's like, where am I going to get all these roses from, And
so was it correct though? Did you actually need that many roses, or was it just a scaling error because the original recipe had so few?
Most of the time, you can shave the like if it's the rose vinegar, you can shave the amount of roses down. But then surprisingly, in some of them, it's like you need that ratio to stay the same. Otherwise, the flavor is a little bit different.
I wonder whether it's a volume versus surface area problem with volatiles, where when you're using something that's intensely volatile and you have a much larger volume for surface area, that it is much less loss. I wonder.
There's definitely like I would say the most surprising thing was, so for example, we have like the dashi reduction on the table here. When we made miso for the first time at Noma, obviously when you're making miso, the ceramic weights you have on top of the miso, they force the tamari to separate, and that's this kind of syrupy, very rich in umami and sweet liquid, and that was Renee's favorite part of the miso, but we couldn't just make miso for that little bit of liquid on top. So what we developed was a technique where we blend that miso with water, and then we'll either spin it in the centrifuge or we'll ice clarify it and collect the liquid, and then put it in a low dehydrator and reduce it all the way down. And then we get maybe not 100% true to form tamari, but we get about like 98% there.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
So you have to side by side to tell the difference.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and I think it's like this like syrupiness that the true tamari has that our reductions.
Are you vacuum reducing it?
Well, we were doing it in dehydrators in like little like
regular dehydrator,
wide containers, and then when they started to do that in larger quantities at Noma Projects, a lot of times it was bitter because it's such a high quantity that the proportion of surface area to dehydration meant that it spent so long you were essentially you're making black garlic. It's the same technique, like a slow Maillard of all the sugars and proteins in this reduction as it got close to finishing.
So how'd you end up? Did you have to end up putting a vacuum on it, or did you just use shallower sheets, or do it in smaller batches, or what?
Shallower sheets, smaller batches. The recipe was updated a little bit just to kind of minimize the risk of a whole batch going, because once it goes bitter, there's no way back from that.
Hard to debitter things.
Yeah, to debitter or deburn.
That's why you gotta.
Reduction.
That's why you gotta sell the bitter. You gotta be like, you know what? This is supposed to taste slightly burnt. It's supposed to taste bitter.
Yeah, maybe New Haven's got a market for our stockpile of burnt tamaris.
Maybe. Like, how much do you have?
I mean, I don't know exactly how much. I think we caught it pretty early on that this was a thing, and then there's the research development work that went into it. It's. Yeah, I don't think it's enough to support all the New Haven communities who enjoy their burnt flavors.
Yeah. Okay, you know what though? That's unfair. It's unfair. You need to go to New Haven.
I'm kind of scared to now after this because this is live too on Patreon.
Yeah,
so.
but like you got to go to New Haven, check out there's some interesting stuff in New Haven. New Haven, as Nastasia has always said, I'm the New Haven of bosses, right, Stas?
I've never said that. I've never said that. You said that. You have said that.
Anyway, so you brought a bunch of stuff to taste.
Yeah.
You want? Let's open it up.
All right.
See what's going on here. I have some stuff for you to taste.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of tasting on this one.
Yeah. By the way, I'll say the one that I have. So, listener, Mathman, Jonathan Anderson sent us a bunch of syrups from his backyard.
Yeah, thank you, Mathman.
And what's interesting, I think, here is like how when maple syrup is made, like it changes over the course of the season, right? It starts out being lighter, having less solids in it, and then it gets progressively darker as it progresses in the season. So we have from the same trees,
3 grades, yeah.
3 grades, same trees. I thought that'd be a good taste.
Are you a light syrup person or darker?
No, I like it dark, but not. Like once it's beyond B, I like it until it gets metallic.
Okay.
So like at a certain point, it gets metallic, and that's unpleasant. So I once bought a whole bunch of it, thinking that I was going to like the even darker grade than B for the bar. And I was like, I don't like this. And then he also sent us some birch syrup to taste. Nice. And the thing about birch syrup I'm interested in is that every time I've had birch syrup, it's been extremely it's a bit high acid, like much higher acid than maple. But let's see here. Here.
Because a cool thing that we do here, just give me a drop already. A cool thing we do at the restaurant is we'll take birch water, which we're getting buckets of birch water now from our friends.
Not acidic.
No, that's nice. A little
bit at the end. Yeah, a little bit of acidity at the end. Yeah.
But this reminds me of the stuff that we'll make in Copenhagen, and we'll reduce to syrup. But what's really cool is if you reduce it and you stop short of a syrup and you match the bricks that you need for kombucha, you can drop a SCOBY in there, and then you get it's kind of like a root beer kombucha, and it's delicious. And we've served it before, but it's like I said, one of those things where it's like the yield is so low on something like that. I think we did the math, and it was like a 4% yield, and we're just boiling pots of water all day.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare. And when you said drop some SCOBY in it, it reminded me of that song, Throw Some D's on It. Drop some SCOBYs on it. Just got a birch-a-lack.
All right, this is the next grade up.
No, that's
right?
the same. That's the same. That's birch.
Okay.
I just wanted to taste it again. Yeah, you want to start? Well, here's blonde.
All right.
Let me. What? I have so much to taste. I don't even know what to do.
I wasn't expecting for you to taste it all in here. We explode your palate here. But
I don't know. What are we gonna start with?
All right, let's do this one.
What kind of birch do you use in Denmark? What do they have? I only know American birches, and I don't know which birch Jonathan has. Maybe it has sugar birch. That would be classic, right? But you can also use like.
I'm not sure what kind of birch we get. I mean, when they deliver the birch water to us, it's in a plastic bucket. Someone else is tapping the trees at this time of year, and then we just get the final water, which is also delicious. Like birch water, ice cold is really nice.
But like, what's the sugar percentage on it? Low, right? Like
it's low. Yeah, like you gotta
1 or 2.
Yeah, you boil it down quite a bit to get any real bricks reading.
But but just plain from the tree, it still tastes good.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, what do you actually use it in the restaurant? What is? Whoa! What is that?
That's the forager's vinaigrette.
Oh! So you just remulsified it.
Yeah, I mean you just give it a shake, and so this is our rose vinegar, which.
Wait. So what's in that? What's the florally herbal thing? What's going on in here?
Yeah, it's the rose vinegar, which we sell separately, and then it's black currant wood oil, and
you say black currant wood
oil. Yeah, so I mean, obviously we know the blackcurrant fruit, but the shoots of the plant as it's growing, we have a lot of farmers who they're growing it for berries, and you have to trim the plant, and then we take all the twigs and the shoots, and while they're still kind of green on the inside, if you ever split one open, it smells delicious. This is like our answer to olive oil in Scandinavia, and we put we take the twigs and we mash them up with like a mortar and pestle or in larger amounts. We'll use some of the machines at Noma projects to basically model them, and then they get steamed in a steam oven overnight. And we double bag it in plastic sous vide bags because when I was an intern at Noma in 2014, we were just developing this ingredient, and I learned the hard way why you need to double bag this oil when you put it in the steamer, because this was hours of using the smallest mortar and pestle known to man to pound this black currant wood and put it in bags, and then the next morning you came in and there's oil everywhere. It smelled great.
But wait, it just leaches through the bag?
Well, it's just the seals failed on the bag.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, what, because they're puffing up a lot?
I guess so. I think it's puffing up a lot because the water it's steamed at a relatively high temperature, like nothing over 100, but maybe the moisture in the branches was causing expansion in the bag and making the seals.
But there's also a lot of air in wood, right, because of all of those vessels. So you're going to get that stuff's going to expand. I wonder. So you put it in 2 bags, but they probably still puff. I wonder, like, if you could, but I don't know. It's a tough problem.
Yeah. But this is like something we use every day at the restaurant. This is
wait. So how much? So the oil is literally from the wood. It's not an oil flavored with the wood.
Sorry, you flavor grapeseed oil with. Yeah. It's I mean, God, if we had to press the oil out of the wood,
that's the craziest thing. So like, how many? Like, what kind of ratio are you talking? And what other things have you tried it with? Because there's a lot of very aromatic woods. Like, what other woods have you tried?
We've done. What have we done? We've done birch oils before, but those weren't like this is the wood oil that we use. But we've also done like
black cherry.
Yeah, this thing we don't really get too many cherries, and we're too far north for like peaches and nectarines and a lot of cherries.
Cherry wood has that smell, or like certain birches have a like. Do you do the wintergreeny birches, the ones that have that kind of wintergreen note, or like what about like? I like the smell of. It's not a Danish, but like tulip wood, Liriodendron tulipifera, like yellow poplar.
Really?
Has like kind of like a lemony. Huh. Some people don't like the smell of it, but like the young green leaves. I love it. Or like, have you ever done just like sassafras, like old school things that people like? Is it good?
Yeah, I mean, it's you definitely get all that flavor out of the wood, and I think we've done like birchwood, and you get a lot of bitterness in the oil, so you can only use so much of it. This is the only one that's been successful in terms of.
So you chum it up.
Yeah.
The green shoots this year's twigs. You chum it up, and then like how much oil?
1-to-1 ratio.
Okay.
Sometimes 2-to-1. It depends. Also, we have to like look at the wood and be like, okay, if this is super strong, then we can afford to get it to a 2-to-1. If we need all the flavor, we can get it to 1-to-1.
If you push it down hard, can you do it in a mason jar or no?
There's something about the steaming under a vacuumed bag.
I think the vacuum probably pushes the oil into the wood and gets good contact. So you need the vacuuming. Okay.
Because we had to do this for Noma projects, right? So it was a larger amount, and we were trying, like, that's a lot of plastic, and that's a lot of time. Someone's got to, because oil too, so it'll overflow the bags. You can't walk away from the machine. So there's just a lot of time of like closing the lid and waiting there, hitting the stop button when it's about to overflow. So we thought maybe if we put it in the steam kettle at the temperature of the oven when we're steaming it, and just have it weighed down in the oil, maybe that'll work. And it wasn't the same. It was like night and day. So I think it's something about the vacuum that you're pulling.
So the vacuum, but also like, is the steam kettle totally sealed? Is it one of the ones that totally seals?
No, it's not. It's open top. It's just steam jacketed.
So you're blowing a lot of stuff off of it probably too. So how long then do you have to steam it?
You steam it overnight.
So like many hours?
Yeah.
Huh. And do you think the birch would be less bitter if you went shorter, or just not enough flavor transfer then?
I mean, I think it's just one of the first things that comes out of the birch is like you get some pleasant flavor, and then it goes like.
I want to try hickory bark because I do hickory bark in syrup, but I never thought of doing it with an oil.
Yeah, I mean, you'll have to give it a try and let me know how it
Listen,
goes.
there's
not a lot of hickory in Copenhagen, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's got to be something we have here. But I feel like this is something that some of our listeners are going to go try to do for sure. For sure. What do you think, Quinn? What do you think? You think is this something that some of our listeners are going to try to do?
I mean, I'm probably going to try and do it. I just got in touch with a company that does local foraging here. I've got some of their products, but it's really small amounts. So I'll try and figure out what makes sense to try as an oil.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I still had my place in Connecticut, because like sassafras there is a weed. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff is a weed. So like, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good technique. It's just a matter of finding the right ingredients to apply where it's worth the trouble of going through the whole process, and then the product is just so good. There's no downside to like there's no off flavors or anything like that. You know what I mean? Should we go with the next one?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm opening the.
So how do you make the rose vinegar? But I tasted it in the vinaigrette. How is that made?
This is we use Danish. I believe it's Danish apple balsamic vinegar, and we'll infuse it with foraged roses So it's a lot of roses, and it's all foraged, like it's all wild roses.
But these are not the roses that you put on the menu. Those ones you grow, right?
No. Those are also foraged roses. So the first year we made the rose vinegar, we kind of self-cannibalized ourselves, where projects needed some for the rose vinegar, we needed some for the summer season, and then we ended up not having enough roses for either of them. So like this is the second run of the rose vinegar with wild roses, because the first run was smaller than we wanted, because no one thought to go and look for different spots. It was like, oh, we know where the roses are.
Right. But not enough for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So the roses, you're doing it after the fermentation, after it's been made. Okay.
Yeah, it's an infused vinegar, just because the roses over the course of fermentation, if you were to start with fresh roses, the flavor would be a little bit muddled, I think.
All right, so this is called Nordic Shoyu, but for those of you that can't see it, it looks to be slightly darker, but in the ballpark color of an American sweet apple cider, unfiltered apple cider. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, so it's much lighter than a traditional shoyu, and it's, most shoyus are aged for 1 year plus. This is 6 months, and it's a lower salt content too. You'll notice, you just took a sip, and if you were serving this in a Japanese restaurant with sushi, it would be kind of weird because the reduced salt level, and because of all these other flavors that we have. There's some fruitiness, there's a little bit of acidity perhaps, and
it's also unfiltered.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and it's cloudy, and that's kind of how we work with our ferments at Noma. Is we'll drop the salt level as far low as we can while still maintaining food safety, so that you can use more of it without over seasoning your food, because salt has kind of been a cap, right? If you use too much soy sauce, it'll be too salty, even if you like the other flavors, the caramel flavors and dark flavors of soy sauce. So this one is,
but it doesn't have. It definitely has some of that, but it doesn't have any of the kind of the overcooked, burny flavors. And it's fava, huh?
Yeah, it's fava beans and toasted rice.
I hate prepping favas. Is it easier to prep them for this, or
these are dried favas?
Okay.
Yeah, so we get dried shelled favas in, and we'll grow our koji on a mixture of the dried favas and toasted rice, and deeply toasted rice. And then it gets mixed with salt and water, and then it'll go for 6 months, and that's how you're tasting it in the bottle. And the cool thing is after you press it, you have the maromi, or the solids as well. And we're working currently. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for saying this on air, but we're working on something to use the solids as well, whether it's a seasoning salt or spice mix, because it's really delicious. As much as I like the shoyu, I find the solids are even more delicious when you dry them out and grind them up into a powder.
Have you ever done rye? So the Maromi, the company up in Mystic, Bob's been on. He does a rye that's just crazy good.
A rye shoyu? Mm-hmm. Okay.
As an adjunct, and you know what I mean. That it's just so good. Have you guys done that? That seems very Danish.
Yeah, we tried. So when I was just starting at Noma in 2019, I arrived midway through this whole trial where they wanted to come up with new shoyus, and it's a 6-month process, right? So it's not like we start one different type and then we wait 6 months and say, I don't like it, let's start another one, right, and wait another 6 months. They had done like 15 different variations using emmer and different wheats and barleys and all these grains, and I think rye was one of them. And actually, out of that came the fava bean shoyu that you're tasting right now. That was the best one we had. But I think most recently we've started using lupins as well. Lupins being a pulse from Scandinavia. We get them from Sweden. Very high in.
Aren't they very similar to favas though? Like the shape?
Yeah.
Almost like broad bean shape, like
exactly,
big.
Yeah. But very higher in protein, closer to a soybean, but we can't use soybeans in a soy sauce that we make because, it's not that we can't, we just choose not to because, shoyu is, at least the shoyu that we learned to make was Japanese, and if we were to just replicate a Japanese product in Copenhagen,
but that's not your shtick.
Yeah, what's the point of having this massive restaurant with a fermentation lab if I'm just going to replicate someone else's recipes?
Because other people are very good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever have any problems with the people who can't have favas? Like anyone ever? I've never actually met someone.
Like a fava allergy?
Well, yeah, favism, it's like, this is why, the theory was back in the day that, certain people like Plato would be like, watch out for the fava beans, because there's a genetic, and I think it's, weird because it's, I think it's mostly occurs in areas where favas are endemic, where genetically you can't have it. You can't digest fava beans. I don't know exactly what happens to you if you
don't know if it's, when they eat it, immediately it happens, or,
I think it's similar to if you see celiacs with gluten, it's like something F's you up inside like hardcore. You know what I mean? But I don't know. We get guest reports on all of our guests at the restaurant, and we do get all the usual allergies like gluten free, no dairy, vegan, vegetarian, so on and so forth. But then occasionally you'll get a no fava bean or they
no
say that?
Yeah.
No. Hey, you want to try this one?
Yeah.
Have you had this one?
Is this the Colatura di Alici?
No. That's the thing. That's the problem. These guys don't know how to market. So this is the people, Mitica, the Spanish people, are trying to do an actual fish sauce. So not just like pressings from anchovies, but like this is the closest Western product I've had to.
Smells good.
Yeah, right. To like ishiri and to the garum replications I've had, the Roman ones, like the gut based ones. And good, huh? Mm-hmm. So it's expensive. It's called Flor de Garum. Mitica makes it, but it's like, to me, that's that meaty. So my two favorite fish sauces are that commercially available ones are, but they can't even get them anymore. Are the Ishikawa one, the ishiri, the squid one, and the ayu fish sauce. Have you had the ayu?
No, but I've had ayu fish.
Yeah.
Is the sauce kind of bitter from the organs or anything like that?
Nope, no. I don't know. It's new, right? 20 years. In other words, it's not like a heritage product. You know what I mean? But this ayu fish sauce is crazy. But now you can't get it anymore. This is good, right?
Yeah, it's delicious. I have had the ishiri in Ishikawa. So we were in Kyoto the past year, and I had a research trip. I went out to Noto Peninsula, where sadly they had the earthquake in Japan recently was kind of situated in Noto. But I was visiting a gentleman over there he's Australian. His name is Ben Flatt. And he married into like Japanese fermentation royalty. Like his wife's family are like the key keepers of these Japanese fermentation styles. So I visited him, and I guess people are asking him a lot for tours and stuff. So he doesn't respond to most of them. You kind of have to ask several times, and eventually he's like, okay, they're actually interested. But even then, I went and visited, and it was just like a tasting of the ishiri that he makes there.
How was it? Was it good?
It was so good.
So good.
He gave me a bottle at the end. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much.
So good, that stuff.
But I didn't see the actual fermentation chamber or how he made it or anything like that. It was just a conversation, and that's because they're so protective of this product. Apparently, people would visit, and then they would try to make something similar back where they come from, and they would call it ishiri, and then that kind of dilutes the actual special product that's made in that particular part of the world.
But I can see why people want to do it, because you just can't freaking buy this stuff.
Yeah. Arguably, you can't even make this kind of stuff without years and generations of expertise. But I'm going back this autumn because we're doing another pop-up in Kyoto, and he's already agreed to let me come in and spend a couple weeks and just see everything he does over there.
Yeah, so meaty. Okay, so what am I tasting next?
I'm going to give you the beef garum because
cool.
The last time, because after you ate at Noma, I gave you some stuff to bring back, and one of them was the beef garum solids. And
yeah, but I don't think I tried the actual liquid.
You didn't try the liquid. I gave you the solids because you had just had the gentleman from Hamburger America, George Motz.
Yeah. He has a restaurant up now.
Yeah. I've been meaning to try it on this very busy week.
I hear that he just put on the what's it called, the limited menu, the Butter Burger.
Mm-hmm. Butter Burger.
That's Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Where's that from?
I can't remember.
Yeah. Because he does the classic hamburger, and then the smash burger, and then there's like the slot for. Well,
most of his classics are smash, but it's with or without onions, right?
Yeah.
So he does the So he's got the butter burger on, but it's one with just like I forget where it's from, but just a preposterous amount of butter.
Yeah,
like an absurd amount of butter, which I'm kind of for. This is good. So why don't you talk about this? What's the process on this guy?
Yeah. So and Quinn's mentioned this on the air. I think during the episode where he tasted the solids. So when we say garum, it's slightly different from the traditional version of the ferment, where it's fish and you're using the enzymes in the fish stomachs to break down the proteins in the fish flesh. So when we make koji at the restaurant, you get those similar enzymes to the fish stomachs, except koji is a much more gentle flavor, right? Like it's not as funky.
Are you using one of the kojis that has a little bit of an acid kick? Because I noticed a little acidity in the back of this. Or is that just me?
It might be you, but we do get. It's not like a Luchuensis strain where it tastes like lemon, the koji, right. Or anything like that. That just might be the fermentation results from it's beef, it's koji, it's water and salt, and that's it. 3 months in a hot room at 60 degrees Celsius, which I'm not sure. I didn't come prepared. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit.
60? 140? No, sorry. Yeah, 140.
I mean, I have to believe you at this point.
That's one of the magic numbers, because that's one of the U.S. That's one of the safe hold numbers.
Yes.
6140.
Yeah,
that's why I didn't even think about it. That's why I had to. That's why I said it first and then had to think about it afterwards, because it's 6140. You know what I mean? It's like -4, -4, -20. Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
you just got a reflex reaction to those kinds of numbers.
Yeah. Like they're just in your head for forever. Taste this. You don't taste it. I'm trying to figure out what it is that makes me feel like it's got like a little bit of that, makes your mouth water like acids do. Not saying it tastes acidic, but you know what I mean? It's got like a little...
To make your mouth water, that could just be the salt and the umami released from the beef as it ferments.
A little bit of the umams. The end. Only now at the end.
Yeah, I think that's some of that is just part of the Maillard. Like it's 3 months at a very warm temperature, so you get some of the browning happening over the course of that time.
So Simon says, or asks, question: do you have any advice for safely fermenting honey with garlic and or ginger? Thinking here in terms of ensuring no botulism toxin is present either in the honey or in the pieces of garlic and or ginger.
I would, and raw garlic and raw ginger. That's tough, because generally anything anaerobic you are concerned about botulism. We had this topic on hand last summer because we were trying to preserve artichokes without cooking them all the way through. Like you get those tinned artichokes that are like mush. And I was working with Ariel Johnson on this technique where it was like a low temp pasteurization with just the bare minimum amount of acid. I mean, if your honey is by chance has a pH low enough, I mean, you might be able to doctor it a little bit with some vinegar or like an acid to bring the pH down, because acidity does prevent botulism toxins from developing.
This is Math Man's walnut syrup, but it's interesting because it doesn't taste like a bark syrup. What is it? What the hell is it?
That's good, but yeah, it doesn't taste like it came from a tree.
Doesn't taste like a bark.
Yeah.
Is it from the nut? So, like, I've always wanted to do the thing where you make like smash up like hickory nuts and then just like make a milk from it and then strain out all the solids. But I wonder, is this from walnut the nut? Is this from walnut?
Maybe the shells of the nut or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've never tasted walnut bark. I wonder what kind of walnut it is. Weird.
Maybe he'll get back to us in the comments on this episode and let us know.
Yeah. Anyway,
I am curious.
So I wanted to do a sweet in between our
I'm giving a lot of salty things here.
So, what would happen if you opened up and just tried to salt cure an artichoke like a caper? What would happen?
I think is it called turgor pressure? What would keep the artichoke kind of upright and stiff? I think you'd lose a lot of that, and it would. I mean, for sure, it'd be extremely salty, and you'd have to like water leach it afterwards.
Yeah. I wonder whether it'd be any good or whether it would suck.
I mean, that's all speculative at this point. Like, you know, if it's I've had a lot of things that cultures say are really delicious, and I've been like, that's not so nice.
But sometimes, like, what do they make chinar out of? Because it doesn't taste like artichokes. Do they, like, I know it's artichoke, but like, what is it? Is it like not the actual artichoke? Is it something else? Because it doesn't taste like articchokes. Tastes delicious. Doesn't taste like artichokes.
I feel like this is your realm of expertise, Dave. It's odd that Dave Arnold is asking me.
Well, I mean, I just don't know, like, because there's so many things that, like, for instance, like rhubarb. Obviously, most of the rabarbaros aren't made with the part that we eat. Mm-hmm. Doesn't taste like that either. You know what I mean? So I don't know with artichokes how they do it.
Those are made with the roots, or
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I mean, we use rhubarb root at the restaurant too. We'll dry it and
stuff's fantastic.
Yeah.
As an infusion, rhubarb root, dried rhubarb root, mwah, beautiful. Love it.
We just got I showed you the new Rotovap we got from Buki that brought us into the modern age, because the old one was like on its last legs.
Yo, the kids nowadays, man. I visited people, and like everyone now has the vacuum system that like auto goes on temperature with the temperature thing. So
the foam sensor, so it never goes into the. Yeah.
Oh my God! Back in the day, you had to sit there and watch the watch the distillation line and keep lowering the vacuum by hand. You had to watch boilovers. I mean, it's a whole new world, better world.
Yeah,
Like, why should you? You shouldn't have to do all that stuff.
But then you start relying on it, and then next thing you know, it's like the foam sensor fails. You're going to want a spoon for this one.
Oh.
The foam sensor doesn't do its job, and then we're back having that conversation with Nastasia about whether it's okay to have an intern lick the inside of the condensation tube to see if it's still spicy from your habanero distillate.
Yeah, Nastasia says no, but only because it's in public. Normally, right, Stas? I mean,
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. So this is an XO sauce. It has the look of the can't mention chili crunch, but it's not.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, I couldn't believe that was happening. So yeah, this is our vegan XO. So there's no traditionally, obviously, XO will have scallop and jinhua ham and shrimps in it. But the reason we called this an XO is, it has none of those ingredients in it, but the texture we thought was very similar. Where you're chewing it, it's oily, but there's chunks in it, and then over time it'll develop in your mouth as well. So this is using a dried tomato, some Madagascar pepper, and one of these ingredients that we had made for us in Japan. Actually, it's called pumpkin bushi, and it was a katsubushi producer in Japan who he had to secretly start trying to smoke and dry these pumpkins in the exact same fashion as a katsubushi, and then we've started using them at Noma for the past couple of years, and it comes like this stiff, hard rod of pumpkin.
Stiff, hard rod of pumpkin.
And we grate it. It's in this sauce, but we also use it in spice mixes and to grate it on top of a lot of our dishes.
Since we're running low on time, let's go straight from super light to super dark on the maple. Have you done the blonde yet? You have blonde.
I have blonde. Where's blonde?
Oh, blonde is here.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so what else? They're gonna rip us off the air in 4 minutes. So we got to figure out everything we're going to talk about.
All right. Let's and then I guess we'll end with the. Let's do hot sauce after this, because that's something I feel like is there's a common thread, and there's some context for that as well.
But that is light.
It is light. I like the darker one more.
Have you tried the dark one yet?
Yeah, I tried that one.
Yeah, I'm always pro dark. The thing is that this is why, like, a lot of people, like, going back to Kyoto, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the chefs there are very pro subtlety. Like, if I'm going to have maple, I don't really want it to be subtle. I want it to kick my butt.
You want it in your face.
Yeah, I want it in my face. But and it's kind of like I'm such an American. You know what I mean? I want stuff in my face all the time. You know what I mean? Does that make me bad?
Yeah. Well, then hopefully you like the hot sauce then, because I feel like that's probably the most intense of the things that we sell right now.
So so while you're pouring this, are you from Toronto, the city, or from the outskirts?
No, I'm from Toronto proper.
Okay.
Shout out to some of our colleagues at Restaurant Noma who tell the guests that they're from Toronto, that they're not actually from Toronto. I grew up in North York. Had I been a few years older, or Dave Zilber a few years younger, we would have actually gone to the same high school at the same time.
These are good. Corn yuzu hot sauce.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the texture? Because this is kind of a point of contention with us. Do you like the that it's kind of pulpy and has chunks in it, or you're more of like a Frank's Red Hot, like straight out of the bottle? It's runny and more liquid.
I am I can do many textures of hot sauce, right? So, like, what I use at home mostly at home, I don't use sauce at this point. Mm-hmm. I use either this, I don't think they're actually from Taiwan, but they're based on this kind of Taiwanese, like, salted fermented chili in massive quantities. So that's chunky. And then Lao Gan Ma, which of course is oily. And those are my current two. I move around, you know what I mean? So, like, I like any texture. Why do people want it to be liquid?
Just some people use hot sauce different ways, right? And you think of like Tabasco, it's pretty watery, and they're kind of showering it over their food, and this is kind of like in between a liquid and a puree. And I personally like the fact that as you chew it, because there's a little bit of corn in there, there's a development in flavor, and the spice is a slow build as well. We do two versions. One is the extra spicy, which is what you're having now, and then we did a milder version for people who just can't take as much heat. But I think we should definitely try to do an even spicier version, because I think
like a kill you version.
Yeah, like sneak a habanero into the assembly line at some point when no one's looking.
I wonder what peppers are you using?
These are grilled habaneros.
Yeah. So like that time, I don't forget I didn't tell us on air or not, but like I was doing a cocktail and my cousin came over and he used the wrong thing as like adding a half ounce, and it was the decanted, speaking of liquids, so, Pucker Butt, the South Carolina people who do the Reaper, that... So, like, one of their sauces, they didn't xanthan it, so it's separated into solids and liquids, and I decanted the stuff off the top of the liquids to use as, like, a mega spice by drops, and he just dumped it into the batch, and I was like, well, let me try it and see what happens. I was like, ah!
Yeah, I've eaten one of those Boot Jalukia chilies.
It's too much.
As is. It's
too much.
Yeah, it put me out of commission for 24 hours.
Well, listen, Kevin, this is an embarrassment of riches you've had me taste. I appreciate coming on. All love to you and the Noma crew. Check out Noma Projects. Where should they look that up?
Well, since we're live on Patreon right now, if anyone's listening, we'll be at Superiority Burger in about 3 hours.
Ooh.
Working with Brooks on some delicious things.
You know what? Brooks, his new French fries, very good.
Looking forward to tasting it.
Very good. Cooking Issues.